Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I am here just the same as you for an update to Lair of Darkness, Labyrinth. My favorite deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! It has surpassed Lair of Darkness for me. Yeah, and it's not even just right now. I think it's just going forward. It's my favorite deck. I love the way they designed this archetype, and I even love the new card we're going to get in Photon Hypernova as well. But as for today, we have an update to the list. This is very, very important. I was having some trouble figuring out the best way to play Labyrinth in the current format, just because the tier matchup actually seemed pretty brutal. Even though you're a trap deck, you are a trap deck that is all about rotating resources. So that would mean, getting your traps back from grave, getting your monsters back from grave continuously. And that meant like Mudora and Keldo actually offered some pretty powerful interruption on you as far as keeping you from getting to those follow-up pieces and kind of just cutting off your grind game, which was pretty brutal. So we have built the deck in a whole different direction here. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Shout out, by the way, to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel called Yu-Gi-Oh! Replays. He actually got top 32 at a regional with Labyrinth, and I think he might have even got 17th, if I remember correctly. But he had a really interesting build, and we'll talk about the parallels there when we get there. So shout out to him. If you want to check out his profile, please do. He's the one who actually got the results, and I've just kind of taken some inspiration from him because I thought he actually had some interesting points on the best way to play the deck going forward, at least until like something happens on a new ban list or we get the new card, and then we can look at reevaluate things from there. But let's get into this profile here. We know the basics of the deck, right? Triple Ariana, you have to play this card. This card is amazing. We love this card. There's really not much to say here. This card is just phenomenal. It's your best starter, right? Because it not only gets you to your trap to get your engine online, or to Lady Labyrinth, but also is just drawing you a card on the opponent's turn. So really, really good. From there, we actually have triple copies of Lady Labyrinth. Sorry, I have the Lovely here. I only own 2 copies of Lady Labyrinth. I am going to pick up the 3rd copy. I just don't have it on me. All my other builds only played up to 2 of this card, but I think for this build I would just play 3. So let's just consider that the 3rd Lady Labyrinth. This card is phenomenal, and it's even a consistency piece. I would even call it a pseudo starter, just because seeing this with any normal trap is going to allow this card to get you access to your engine. So not a problem there. This card is just a house. This card is phenomenal. Its protection effects, its ability to summon itself super easily and apply pressure, as well as the ability to keep getting traps in the grind game over and over again, is really, really good. And the last Labyrinth card, monster I play, is just one Coup Clock. This looks weird. I cut this out of my last build, but in a build like this, I think this card becomes much more playable. You're kind of turboing that stuff. We're maxing out on Lady Labyrinth and Ariana, and obviously Welcome Labyrinth. So being able to open pretty much any 2 of those allows you to kind of abuse Coup Clock, because he's gonna give you the opportunity to potentially just activate a trap going first and just get so much of your engine set up immediately, which is so good. So he's really the only one you play because of those graveyard shufflers, Bestials, the Mudoras and Keldos of the world. It's pretty hard to play the small guys, because what they offer you is essentially a neg one, and then when they get shuffled in, the whole point of them is they keep coming back, so they make up for that initial neg one. And so if you play them right now, they just neg one and then they're neg one. That's it, and it's really bad. So I don't think you can play them until there's not stuff like Mudora. At least Mudora and Keldo. Bestials are still annoying for those, but not as annoying. I don't know, they're fine. But yeah, Coup Clock, really, really cool at helping you speed up some of your trap fires. And then move to the interesting part of the deck list, hand traps. This is a hand trap Labyrinth deck profile. I know you normally wouldn't really expect this from Labyrinth, but let's jump into it. Obviously, if you're playing hand traps, you got to play Bestials. I'm only on 5 here. I think you could play way more than this if you wanted, and by way more, I would say 7 max. Maybe when the other new one comes out, Baldrake comes out, I would play him over Saronir. Obviously, if you're not playing Lubellion, Saronir doesn't really do anything extra, whereas at least Baldrake actually offers some additional value. So maybe, you could expand from there. But my whole thing was if you build your deck too hard to beat tier, then your deck is just not as good versus Sprite, not as good versus Flunder. I think as this format goes on, we're going to see more players, especially people who are just a little bit more tired of playing tier at the highest levels, kind of diversify and spread out to other decks. So I like these because they are good versus tier and they're okay versus Sprite, but they're just dead versus Flunder, and I just didn't want to be overcooked on these in the main deck to get punished by that. But these are amazing. And I also love that, like, even if you don't see your main engine, if you just see Magnamut, he's going to, like, the Bestials apply so much pressure on their own and give you board presence that really does make up for some of what, like, just not opening, like, a live Labyrinth starter can do for you. It's really nice. Moving on from there, some other hand traps, triple copies of Ash Blossom, double copies of Valor. And this is supposed to be 2 Skullmeisters. I couldn't find my other Skullmeister. I don't know how I just have 1 Skullmeister right now. It's really embarrassing, to be honest. But Ghost Bell, they kind of cover the same base. Skullmeister has one other little synergy, but there's an argument to say Bell's even better just because she can just negate either the Shizu Shufflers. They can negate a Bestial if you have to get something back. You know what I mean? If they're going to do a Mudora or a Keldo that's going to get rid of, like, your welcome Labyrinth Engrave, plus you wanted to, like, bring something back, like, that can be a lifesaver at some point. So there's an argument whether to play one or the other. Just because I only have the one Meister, I just showed them both here, because you could play either here. By the way, Valor and Imperm are actually just really good in this format. I think they're good versus Sprite. I think they're good versus Tier. I think they're good versus Flu. And even versus Tier, you might be like, you gotta have Graveyard Interruption. It's still a really good interruption to hit Kit, because they don't get the search off of Kit, and it forces them to have an extender that can remove Kit with a card effect, because Kit won't be able to remove itself to trigger that mill 5. So it kind of forces them to, one, have an extension effect and use it there, whereas it might have been more optimal to use it later if they could have. So that's just really, really nice value on them, really limiting the ceiling of their plays. And we also play Imperm in the list. We'll get to that later. So with these 7 plus the 5 Bestials, which is 12, plus the Imperms, we actually have 15 main deck hand traps, which really brings up, like, a really interesting point of conversation. This is really the main thing I want to focus on for this deck profile, is the idea of a hand trap deck is something we really haven't messed around a ton with in Yu-Gi-Oh! Only here and there. The 2 main things is Yu-Gi-Oh! Replays. I brought him up at the beginning of the video. In his list, he was playing essentially something similar. I don't think his hand trap lineup was exactly this, but 15-ish hand traps, and you know, he saw success there, and pretty much the idea was, like, 2 main things. 1, trap decks kind of not great going second inherently. 15 hand traps, boom, you can go second. You're going to see 2 hand traps more than half the time, you know, going second, which is really solid. And sometimes, depending on what it is, even 1 hand trap can be okay, you know, in a lot of scenarios. So you're able to go second way, way better and more consistently than you used to. And the other thing is, one thing that I've always feared, and especially in a deck like this, where this is a trap deck, but it's a trap deck that wants you to play normal traps. So you know, you can't always fit in as many counter traps and, you know, safety measures as you'd like. And so the board breakers in the game, you know, your Lightning Storms, your Evenleys, your Harpies, Feather Dusters, those cards just blow you out completely. Whereas if we play 15 hand traps, even if our board was like, even if it was a good hand and we went first, we could have, like, you know, 1 monster on field and, like, 2, maybe 3 trap cards set, and then you could also have 2 to 3 hand traps in hand. So even if you get cleared, you could still have a follow, like, you get Evenly, you save the best trap that gives you, like, follow-up, and then you also just could have 2 or 3 hand traps in hand. So you still are going to stop your opponent and then also be able to play. So it just makes it harder for you to get haymakered out of the game, which has always been a problem for trap decks. And it just kind of makes it harder for them to play against you entirely, because they have to worry about your back row, they have to worry about hand traps in hand, and they also have to worry about you know, your Labyrinth stuff on the field. So I really like that a lot. I think it's really cool. Another thing that I wanted to mention is there was a list earlier this year, I think in a WCQ, maybe a South American one, I don't remember what country it was, but somebody had topped it with Dinomorphy, and it was essentially the same idea, but they played, like, 18 or something hand traps, and then just, like, you know, all the Dinomorphia cards, like, you know, they have, like, 12 1-card Rexterms. So 1-card Rexterm, and then just the rest of your deck is just 20 hand traps. Their extra interruptions going first. Their interruptions that help you keep your opponent off of their plays going second. And yeah, and then you just one one card Rexter and go from there. And that's kind of the same idea we're taking advantage of here. We don't have one card Rex terms, but we have a one card resource engine that's very, very powerful at allowing us to grind. And that's kind of what we're kind of relying on more so there. So very, very cool. Just want to mention that. Moving on here. Let's get to the spells. Only a few spells, one Labyrinth, and one Necro Valley for the field spells. Yeah, I mean, this should kind of give away one of the secret techs that we're playing in the trap lineup, but yeah, pretty much we have access to either of these. Obviously, this can be searched off Ariana, so I still like having this because if all you play is Lady Labyrinth and Ariana as like your real main monsters, your engine doesn't actually get you an eruption unless you open an eruption with it, like open normal traps and stuff and go from there, whereas by playing Labyrinth, you know, getting this makes Welcome Labyrinth an interruption every time. So that's why I like playing this card, just to be able to make use of that. Plus it gives you recursion by giving you monsters back from grave. And then Necro Valley, obviously, insane floodgate versus tier. It's one copy in the main. It's not a huge deal. And by having another search target, you know, it's, if you don't need it, you can just grab Labyrinth. So really good. And the only other spell card I play is Triple Prosperity. I think you can absolutely get away with Extravagance. I'll throw it out there. If you are a budget player, I think this list more than others is actually even better. Is a list that makes more sense with Extrav than Prosperity in some cases. The argument here is that we're on hand traps, right? In the last iteration of the deck, I was playing like 2 Lava Golem and 2 evenly in the main, so that way, you know, if I lost a die roll going game 1, I would just like Prosperity, and I could just Prosperity into either of those. And if I was playing tier, that was before tier was ending on crime, really ever, you could just, oh, evenly, cool, I'll just like clear your board. Or Lava Golem, cool, I'll clear your whole, like all your monsters off your field, and then I set 4 and pass, right? In this deck, we're playing hand traps, so like Prosperity is a little bit less powerful here. Post side, it's still really good. And that's really why I still like it, is because post side, it's just more consistent at finding those specific killer cards, as well as like giving you a more consistent starter turn 1. But yeah, there's an argument for Extravagance because it could just get you 2 hand traps. Boom, there's 2 instead of just one card off Prosperity. So yeah. All right, that is it for the spells. Only 5 there. Moving into the trap lineup, obviously we start with Triple Welcome Labyrinth. I cannot wait for Big Welcome Labyrinth. That card is absolutely amazing for the deck. I cannot wait to have 3 more copies of a Welcome Labyrinth card. But yeah, this card's amazing. It just summons one of your archetypal monsters from deck and then also resets itself like every turn. So good. And we got to play some removal traps, but we don't play as many as you might expect. We do play Triple Compulse. I love this card. I had messed around with the idea of like, oh, Compulse just isn't strong enough. It's just okay. No, Compulse is still solid, man. I don't care. Play tier. They're going to put like multiple resources and like use, you know, once per turn fusion effects to get, fusion climb into their bigger monsters. And then you just shuffle it back, right? Like you just let them go and then you shuffle it back as soon as they think they're like in the clear. They don't float. It's really solid. And then it triggers some of your other effects. I also play 2 Punishment. Yeah, this card's really good, but it's a hard once return, unlike Compulse. So this card just has amazing utility. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to play Extravagance, I would opt to play a different trap than this, just so that you can, you don't have to worry as much about the extra deck. But yeah, the utility on this card is really nice. I know it's not particularly amazing versus tier. You could go for a meta call that you think is just like more tailored to like hurt tier harder. But for me here, I just go with Punishment because the utility on this card is just so amazing. It really is so good. All the different things you can do with this card to get access to stuff, which is really, really cool. And then we move to some generic traps. 2 Metaverse. These are the cards that we're playing that just get us access to either of those field spells. I love this. You know, if you're going first, boom, Necro Valley, you win the game versus tier. Or if you're playing against something else like Flunder, you just go boom, activate the field spell when you use another trap. You know, when you use Welcome Labyrinth, you're popping a card. It's really solid. There. Triple copies of Imperm. This pairs with all the other hand traps we play. I know this isn't amazing with Bestials, but I feel like we're you can always fire this first before you fire Bestials. So that's not even a huge problem. That you're really nitpicking if you're gonna call this card like clunky with the Bestials and stuff. It's just too good, and it's a normal trap, so it has synergy with the rest of the cards. It's really good. And the last normal trap I play is 1 Trap Trick. This is just really good. It makes all of your 3 of traps 4 ofs. It makes all your 2 ofs, 3 ofs. It's really good, and there's just insane utility off this card. I really like this. I almost want to play a second copy in this deck because we're a little bit lighter on traps. And the last trap in the main is Double Goes In. This card's amazing. You know, just an insane floodgate. Amazing versus Flu. Amazing versus Sprite. And then also okay versus Tier, because you can catch them with like a Rhino hard on field, right? If they have to start with that, or just, you know, catch them with a water, catch them with an earth if they go into, if they summon like, you know, I don't know, one of the, a Shizu Tier or a Shizu Fairies, or they go into like Dweller early or something, boom. You know, you catch them on waters. Like, you can definitely hit them with some awkward plays. Because they won't be ready for that card at all. Unfortunately, because we do play the Bistrels with the Labyrinth cards, you've got Fiends and Dragons. So I think overall, I think I would lean on Rivalry just a little bit more, just versus Tier. But, you know, we can't really afford to do that because just we really want to play the Bistrels. But that's it, 40 in the main. That's really, really cool. I really like that. Moving in the extra, there's not a ton here. Muckracker, we know this card. Dark, we know this card. Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres because of the Bistrels. We'll talk a little bit about this in a sec, but that's it for the Link 2s. There's really not that much going on there. It's pretty basic stuff. And then one Underworld Goddess. I love this because it's a Fiend, and even like if you're locked into Fiends from extra deck because of your Welcome Labyrinth, you activate it last turn, you can still go like Muckracker, Reborn a card, and all you need is any other monster on the field, and you can Underworld Goddess your opponent to out anything. It's also, you know, for control decks, being able to out a Towers monster is really nice utility. So this card offers quite a lot there. Frigzeeds, I do play the DDD package. This is another reason why I kind of like the Skullmeisters a little bit more than the Ghost Spells, just because he's a level 4 Fiend, so you can just normal summon him on a later turn after you have Ariana out, and then just make Wave King Caesar, make King Tell, boom, make a 3 Interruption Deuce Machinex, and it's amazing. It's not going to come up all the time, but I still like playing it. It's cheeky. It's an easy banish off Prosperity, whatever. Wallow in Hieratic Dragon, King of Atum. Wallow is just if you get 2 Bistrels on the field and you want something else to go into that offers further value. And kind of same thing with Hieratic Dragon, King of Atum. The idea with this card is that if you had 2 Bistrels, so like let's say you went Magnamut, then Magnamut searched you a Druid's Worm, you summon Druid's Worm, you could make this card on the next turn, right? This is the next turn. You would summon out another Magnamut off of this card, trigger the Magnamut that you'll search on end phase, and then still make a Seals. So just by playing this card, it means on that next turn, you would be able to like get a search for another Druid's Worm and still end on Seals. So if you're not killing your opponent, it guarantees you like a bounce plus another like summon from deck and the ability to go ahead and you know, get that bounce as well. So and have the what did I say? I'm sorry, the Druid's Worm in hand, the bounce with Seals, and it can tag out again for another body as well. So yeah, it's just really good. And then for all the punishment targets, just double Intis, 1 Garura, 1 Cyber and Dragon, 1 Myriad Logic Aggregator, and 1 Omega. You know, removing stuff from grave. It's not a quick effect though, unfortunately, which makes this card pretty awkward, but whatever. At least you could like force out something like an Ishizu Shuffler in grave, so that way before you put something like a Welcome Labyrinth in grave, you could force them out and then you resolve it, so that way it can come back. So that's cool. Aggregator negating stuff on field, really good versus Flunder, because you could like pop the Rabina with the punishment and then use this to negate the Eaglin when they normal it in the next chain. Cyber and Dragons is just you can pop big stuff. This does come up. I definitely would say you have to play it. This card's cool because if you play something like Sprite or Flu, they have such small monsters, you could definitely draw. And in a deck like this where you play enough hand traps, there's a handful of cards where you're like, actually drawing that off the top would be kind of insane on your turn. So that's a cool one. And then obviously Double Intis, the best one for sure. And I'll even give you a quick little glimpse into the side. It's not going to be too crazy, but it will skim through it. Triple Sphere mode. The only normal summon in the deck is Ariana, so if you have to Sphere mode your opponent and hold an Ariana, it is what it is. Breaking that board is first priority, going second. And plus with Prosperity, being able to dig for this card is amazing, because once you add it, your opponent can't do anything because there's nothing to negate or anything. You're cooking. Then lightning storms and evenlies for like big board breakers. Really cool again. Prosperity digging for these. Very, very nice. Zombie World. This is cool because we already play the metaverses. So if you play something like Flu, you side out the Necro Valley, you side this in, and then you have something to kind of dunk on them and keep them from, you know, playing the way they like to play, cutting them off from some of their cards. I do play one copy of Destructive Daruma Dharma Cannon in the side as well. This is a main deck out to Towers Monsters because it just says like if it puts everything face down, but if anything doesn't go face down, it's sent to grave. So you know, it outs like the Ad-Ignister Towers, it outs the Blackwing Towers, just stuff like that. It's a main deck out on top of having Underworld Goddess and extra, just in case you're in those matchups. But it's also just a good card. Like, there are matchups like Sprite where this card's like insane. If I do the turn 1 combo to like search set any trap from deck, like sometimes I'll just grab this versus Sprite because it's really, really strong versus them. Triple Judgment. This card's a little bit less relevant in this list. This I might end up changing for this build because, like I said, with the hand trap factor of it, you just end up with more cards in hand. You're not ending with 5 cards set and you just auto lose to evenly, lightning storm, stuff like that. And so Judgment's just a little bit less crucial. But that being said, I still want really powerful trap cards to side going first, because when you go first, some of those hand traps are just okay, right? If you're against tier, you might just be like pure tier. You're just like, let me take out the Ashes. Like, Ash just super lackluster versus this deck. So let me get something that I know is just like okay, I can stop any one thing kind of card, and it's just a little bit stronger there. So, you know, I like it for that. And then Double Eradicator. If you play a matchup like Flu that you know is like heavy on spells, this card's amazing. And of course, with the way we play the deck, being able to search this out and have a Lady Labyrinth on, like, you're going to set this off Lady Labyrinth turn 1 and then just use it on your opponent's turn, tributing the Lady, and then just rip like 4 cards out of a Fluanderee's hand. It's insane. And then a pointer of the Red Lotus, just another copy of a card going first that, you know, gets you a look at the hand so you know what traps to go for potentially in the grind, as well as, you know, ripping that card, the, you know, strongest card out of the hand, whether it's a board breaker or whether it's just straight up the best engine card in your opponent's hand. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the side, main, and extra. I love this deck, and I actually think this is a really cool variant. It feels more mid-range. You're not going as all in on all the trap cards. That's definitely something you could gripe about if you just aren't opening enough traps and stuff. But hopefully the idea is if you're not opening up traps, you should have multiple hand traps in hand to at least keep you alive. Until then, the Bestials applying pressure on the field is really nice. I like it. I think the deck's in a really, really cool place. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I just want to give you an update on where I am with Labyrinth. I know a lot of you have been following along with my updated Labyrinth profiles, so I wanted to throw this out to you there. Sorry if this ran a little bit longer than usual. I had some things I really wanted to explain because this build is quite a bit different than it's been in the last couple, so I definitely wanted to give some good explanations there. But I'm out of here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on all things Yu-Gi-Oh! From your boy. Deck profiles, news videos. We are right about to get into the big news cycle for Cyberstorm Access, and I'm very, very excited for that. We should be getting the new deck build pack archetypes revealed soon as well. There's a lot coming, and I can't wait to bring it to you. So I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.